It has never been easier to learn a new skill, and yet it has also never been more overwhelming. I started learning photography back in 2015, and if I had to start again from scratch today, my journey would be very, very different. My name is Hannah and I'm an ocean lifestyle photographer based in Queensland, Australia. I make videos sharing photography tips and helping you to become more confident and creative with your camera. If this sounds like the sort of thing you're into, hit subscribe. If I had to use just one word to sum up how I learned photography, it would be this: slowly. Painfully slow. And the main reason for this is that I was doing it all alone and without many resources. Back in 2015, the online education space was nothing like it is today. So if I were to start again, the first thing that I would do is I would find someone to learn from. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, well, there are thousands of teachers out there. Yes, that's true, but most of them are online. I would find someone who lives in my local area. Someone who is experienced enough that they clearly know what they're doing, and someone whose work I really like. I would contact them to find out if they do small group or private workshops for beginners. And if they don't already, I would ask them if it's something that they would be willing to do. And I would learn the basics in person from someone that knows that I'm a complete beginner. I recently did a private workshop for someone that had never even picked up a camera before, and I brought along 2 cameras and 4 lenses so that she could have a go at changing lenses herself and physically holding a camera as I was teaching her. And at the end of this session, I said to her, I have just taught you in 3 hours what it took me nearly 3 years to learn on my own. So save yourself some time and go and find yourself a mentor. And that leads me nicely onto the next thing that I would do, and that is to ask questions. I actually did have kind of a mentor when I first started learning photography. And even though he knew that I was a complete beginner because I didn't have a camera yet, he actually helped me choose what cameras to buy. I think he still kind of assumed that I had some photography knowledge, and I didn't. I had none. And because of where I was at personally in my life at that time, I had this massive fear of looking stupid. So when he used photography terms that I didn't understand, rather than using this opportunity to learn from him, I kept quiet and nodded my head simply because I was afraid of looking stupid. I just didn't have the confidence to say, actually, I don't know what you're talking about. And I think this is a trap that a lot of us fall into, but the truth is you can't be annoyed at not knowing something that you simply haven't learnt yet. We're all born knowing nothing, and the only reason that anyone knows anything is because they've learnt it. So if I had my time again, I would tell myself, okay, Hannah, don't worry about not knowing everything about something that you haven't learned yet. And I would ask all the questions. The third thing that I would do is actually something that I would avoid doing, and that is buying gear without knowing what it's actually for. Whenever I buy new camera equipment, I always ask myself the following question: what problem will this equipment help me to solve? And if I can't answer that question yet, I don't buy the gear. It's so easy, especially when we're starting out, to think that we need to have so much equipment, and also to think that equipment will help us to become a better photographer. But the truth is, a more expensive lens will only help you improve if you already know what you're doing. Now, I was quite fortunate in that I did have someone who knew the kind of photography that I wanted to get into, and he literally did tell me what gear to buy. But I did end up buying some gear that I've never really used. For example, graduated ND filters. This would have absolutely been in my stage of learning landscape photography. I guarantee you I was watching some video where someone told me, if you want to take landscape photos, you have to have graduated ND filters. So I just went out and bought them. And it's not that they aren't useful in landscape photography, but they don't actually really go with my style of run and gun photography. I'm just not the kind of photographer that will spend hours finding the perfect location, setting up my tripod, setting filters, and taking the same photo over and over. I much prefer to have the flexibility of being able to move around. Now, obviously these were just filters that weren't really that expensive, but if you start doing this with lenses or cameras, you can start wasting a lot of money very, very quickly. The next thing that I would do is I would enter photography competitions very early on. Not really with the intention of winning, although that would be lovely, but to help guide my photography. When I was starting out in photography, I would never have dreamt of entering a photography competition because I would have told myself that there is just no way that I am good enough. And I actually really didn't appreciate how good some of my early work was because I always allowed this fear to take hold of me. But there are actually a lot of competitions out there that are specifically for amateur photographers, people that are just learning. But the main reason that I think photography competitions will be so useful as a beginner is because a lot of beginners feel really overwhelmed with not knowing what to shoot. So you can use the categories in a competition to help guide your photography. This will help you to niche down to a certain subject or style. You can look at past finalists and past winners and really analyze those photos and try to figure out what made those photos so appealing to the judges. Now that I've actually started entering some competitions myself, I'm kind of kicking myself for not having had the confidence to start earlier. It's a great way to give you motivation to go and shoot, to give you direction in what to shoot. And with some competitions, you can actually pay to get feedback from the judges even if you didn't win, which could be really helpful. Loads of competitions are completely free to enter, so it doesn't have to cost you any money. And I believe that it can really help to improve your photography very quickly. I also think that I would find some specific photos from photographers that I really admire, and I would try to copy those specific photos exactly. Now, this isn't with the intention of copying their photo and calling it your own. It's purely because the process of doing this will force you to analyze their photo. If you're trying to copy it exactly, you'll need to look at the light, the composition, the colors, everything. And I guarantee you that you will struggle to take a photo that looks exactly the same. Now, obviously you need to do this with something that's actually feasible. You can't take a photo of a humpback whale, for example, and try to copy it if you're not a water photographer and you don't have access to humpback whales. What would be ideal would be if it's something that you can easily shoot over and over again without too much effort, so that you can practice making mistakes and trying to shoot that image until you can get it to look almost as identical as the one that you're trying to copy. When I was starting out, I was so obsessed with trying to find my own style that yes, I would use other people's work for inspiration, but I didn't try to copy any photos in particular, and I think this process would have been really beneficial for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that you copy other people's work and call it your own. This is purely a practical exercise to help you improve your observation skills and your technical skills very quickly. Now, the last thing that I would do is the scariest of them all, and that is I would start shooting people very early on. Even if you're certain that you don't want to be a portrait photographer or that you don't even want to have people in your photos, this is something that will really help improve your photography skills very quickly. Specifically, putting a person in your photo will help you learn about light very, very quickly. I remember my first shoot that I did with a model, and I had probably been shooting for 3 or maybe even 4 years by that time. And even though I did really want to shoot people, I just didn't really have the confidence to do it. And once again, I allowed my fear to hold me back. But I finally took the plunge and I found someone on Instagram that wanted to be a model, so she also wanted to practice. And we met up at the beach and we did our first photo shoot together. So we were both learning at the same time, and this was a really nice way to practice. But the reason I say that your photography will improve so much is because the way that the light falls on someone's face and where you choose to position a person in relation to you is just so different to just shooting a landscape. You're forced to make a lot more decisions. You just need to get these reps in to help build your confidence and your courage. You will learn so much about positioning your subject, positioning yourself, about light, about editing, and your photography will improve so quickly. I know that there are a lot of videos out there with a very similar title to this one, but I really hope that this video has given you some great ideas on how you can start improving your photography from day one. If you have any other tips, I would love to know what they are. So please let me know in the comments, and most importantly, stay safe and have fun.